Here's part two for the Horween seconds. We wanted to show you some of these defects up close and in detail. First off, we're going to show a brand. This is a brand on a hide. Some of these brands can be worse off, like this one where it's got a hole. Other ones can be not as deep, and you can actually utilize it into your pattern and put it into, say, a bag or something else like that where you can use the brand in your design. This one does have the hole, as I mentioned, where it's a little bit worse off. So that's just something to keep an eye out for when you get seconds. They may have a brand or something like that. The next defect here to show you is a hole. This is a rather larger hole in this side here. But the rest of the hide is actually really nice. Beautiful grain still, to where we would usually still just put this as a regular second run hide, even with that hole, hand-sized hole there. If it was anything worse off in the side, some more defects going on, it would probably become a craft grade, which is going to be a lower quality second run that we price accordingly. The next one here, again, this is the larger hole. You can expect smaller ones. Sometimes they can even be a little bigger than that, but usually smaller holes. This one's just a little bit larger. The next thing we have here is an indentation. These can happen when the sides are being shipped and the straps are pulling on them, or whatever may have happened to this hide. Other things where the side's been folded on itself, folded over in trifold fashion on the pallet for a matter of time, and it can be hard to get that pull-up line out of the leather. That can happen on some of the heavier pull-up hides as well, as far as a second run. Loose break is a term that happens when the grain is a little looser in these sections and the top grain and the rest of the hide are separating from themselves a little bit. Not like it's going to fall off of the hide or anything, separate like that, but it is showing that the grain is a little loose in between each other, to where usually when it folds in on itself and it bends backwards is when it gets that effect happening. The rest of this hide is actually rather nice. It's down into that flank and leg area where the grain tends to get looser. So that's also an important thing as far as when cutting, to cut from certain sections of the hide. That will give you a better result in your product, as the grain can be tighter in other sections versus others. This is what we call drawn grain, when the hide is going to have that natural grain pattern because the hide wasn't plated out in the tanning process. This is showing down in the belly area where it can be a little more prominent. So usually it's not so bad, but just to show you what drawn grain is, it's when the natural pattern of the grain is showing on the leather. Often in shrunken grain leather, it's going to be shrunken in on itself to really enhance that grain. So drawn grain right there, when that pattern is showing in on itself on the hide. A swatch cut, tannery cut, is when the tannery is taking a sample, usually for tannery purposes or for sampling purposes, for their customer, whoever this drum load's for color testing, all those little things to make sure that this is going to work out in this load or whatever was being produced. Or it could have been a test. They were testing something and they wanted to see, the core, how it reacted and how it tanned. So that's things that you'll see from the tannery, is a tannery cut or a swatch cut when a section of that hide has been cut out for swatch and testing purposes. The next piece here is Essex, that has a grain defect, an open scar there where it's kind of something you would really want to avoid as far as making whatever product, because that's going to mess with the integrity of your leather there. Open grain, you want to avoid that when you can. And then the next thing here is like a pock mark or grub hole, or whatever you want to call it. It's a grain defect, usually a skin defect or growth that's happening on the animal to cause some odd looks on the grain there. Also, this one has an indent where it's been indented on another hide, or another hide indented into that. So another defect, grain defect, or a skin defect. This is going to be two hides that have healed scars. These scars are healed over, so the integrity of the leather is still there. It's strong hide there that you can use for product if you wanted to incorporate that into your design. You can cut around it if you wanted to, but when it's a healed scar like that, it's still going to be tough stuff that would work well. And then another thing that can happen is stains, like you see here on these horse strips, can be a stain on hides. So those are just a few things, some of those main defects we were talking about. So we just wanted to give you guys a little bit more of an up close and personal look at what some of these defects can be. This is most of the defects you will see on second run hides. Not to say this is all of the defects. There can be other variations, color variations from side to side. The color could have been wrong in the initial tannage. You know, there's lots of different things that can happen in the tanning process that cause these leathers to get called as a reject or defective for that job lot. So if you guys have any questions, just let us know. Shoot us an email at info@maverickleathercompany.com and we can help you out. Have a good day and have fun. Thanks.